everybody, welcome to Stonx Music. My name's Ollie and today we're going to be having a look at EQ8 in this deep dive session. Let's go! Right, here we are back in the Ableton manual. Let's dive in. EQ8. The EQ8 effect is an equalizer featuring up to 8 parametric filters per input channel, useful for changing a sound's timbre. The input signal can be processed using one of 3 modes: stereo, left and right, and mid-side. Stereo mode uses a single curve to filter both channels of a stereo input equally. L&R mode provides an independently adjustable filter curve for the left and right channels of a stereo's input, and mid-side mode provides the same functionality for signals that have been recorded using mid-side encoding. In all modes, the frequency spectrum of the output is displayed behind the filter curve when the analyzer is switched on. When using the LR and MS modes, both curves are displayed simultaneously for reference, although only the active channel is editable. The edit switch indicates the active channel and is used to toggle between the 2 curves. Each filter has a chooser that allows you to switch between 8 responses. From top to bottom in the choosers, these are 48 or 12 decibel octave low cut, cuts frequencies below the specified frequency. Low shelf boosts or cuts frequencies lower than the specified frequency. Bell curve boosts or cuts over a range of frequencies. Notch sharply cuts frequencies with a narrow range. High shelf boosts or cuts frequencies higher than a specified frequency. High shelf boosts or cuts frequencies higher than a specified frequency. 12 or 48 dB octave high cut cuts frequencies above the specified frequency. Each filter band can be turned on or off independently with an activator switch below the chooser. Turn off bands that are not in use to save CPU power. To achieve really drastic filtering effects, assign the same parameter to 2 or more filters. To edit the filter curve, click and drag on the filtered dots in the display. Drag and close multiple filter dots to adjust them simultaneously, either with the mouse or with the computer keyboard's arrow keys. Horizontal movement changes the filter frequency, whilst vertical movement adjusts the filter band's gain. To adjust the filter Q, also called resonance or bandwidth, hold down the Alt for PC or Mac modifier while dragging the mouse. Note that the gain cannot be adjusted for the low cut, notch, and high cut filters. In these modes, vertical dragging adjusts the filter Q. To get an even better view, you can toggle the location of the display between the device chain and Live's main window by clicking the arrow button in EQ8's title bar. When using this expanded view, all 8 filters can be edited simultaneously in the device view. By default, EQ8's output spectrum is shown in the display. If you would rather work entirely by ear, you can turn off the Analyze button to disable the spectrum view. With Adaptive Q enabled, the Q amount increases as the amount of boost or cut increases. This results in a more consistent output volume and is based on the behaviour of classic analog EQs. To temporarily solo a single filter, enable Audition mode via the headphone icon. In Audition mode, clicking and holding on a filter dot allows you to hear only that filter's effect on the output. You can also select a band for editing by clicking near its number and then edit parameter values with the frequency, gain and Q dials, and or type values into the number field below each dial. As boosting will increase levels and cutting will decrease levels, use the global gain slider to optimize the output level for a maximum level consistent with minimal distortion. The scale field will adjust the gain of all filters that support gain, except low cut, notch and high cut. Context menu options. Several of EQ's controls are only available via the right-click PC, control-click Mac context menu. These include oversampling. Enabling this option causes EQ8 to internally process 2 times the current sample rate, which allows for smooth filter behaviour when adjusting high frequencies. There is a slight increase in CPU usage with oversampling enabled. Shelf scaling legacy mode. As of Live 9, the shape of EQ's shelf filters have been improved. Live sets that use EQ8, which were made prior to Live 9, may sound slightly different. To ensure older sets sound exactly the same, the shelf scaling legacy mode option will be enabled by default when loading an old set that uses EQ8. You can disable this via a right-click PC, control-click Mac context menu entry in EQ8's title bar. Note, as of Live 9, the high quality context menu option has been removed. EQ8 now always operates in this mode. Right, so EQ is going to be one that most of you use or are going to want to use. So let's jump in and have a look at what we can do with EQ. Right, so here we are back in Ableton, and what better way to start than making a kick drum? It's one of the things I do at the beginning of every song. It's a great place to start. So I'm just going to grab an operator, pitch envelope, turn this on, and we'll hit that up. Get that for our attack. Control Shift M. I'm going to hit a G because I always use a G for my kick. I say always, it's not always, but almost always. Audio track, resample, here we go. There we go, that's a nice hit. I'll bring that here. And if you've seen the other episode on drum bus, this is a great way to just process that kick. So I'm going to loop this. Take that down to G. That's quite a nice start. And then there's one free plugin, or it's pay what you like, and that is the KSHMR Essential Kicks. I'll leave a link of this in the description too. It's a really nice one just to boost some of that air and space on your kick drum. So let's just go here, comp it up. Okay, so I'm going to resample this again, audio track, resample, and I'll turn the loop off. Okay, so what we've got here is the makings of a good kick, but on its own you can hear there's a bunch of frequencies in there we probably don't want. So you can see it's got a nice big transient attack, it's got a big boom, but there's a load of stuff in there that is less than ideal. So let's come over and grab our EQ8. So for me, this is something that I've done because when I use EQ8 most of the time, I'm chucking it on tracks to tidy up. So I've actually set this as default and right click save as default preset. So normally you'd have it like this, but I've set a low cut up at 130 Hz. So when I'm doing my work, I can just drag that onto any channel, and most of the time I'm going to be cutting those frequencies out. So anything like this that you might find you do a lot of the time, you can right click save as default preset to save a bit of time. In this case, we don't want that on. We've got this here, which is our spectrum, so that should be on at default. You can have a listen and look. So one thing you might have seen in some of my other episodes, I generally use span. I think it's a very good frequency analyzer. It gives you all the information you need. We've got the block size here you can set up, and we have that on here as well. But I just find span's a really nice one. I don't always want to be using EQ8. We've got a correlation meter here as well. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to use the spectrum inside EQ8. So what would I do here? How would we fix this kick drum? Well, if you kind of know what sounds you don't like, I can hear there's a clicky noise up there. We could start by dragging, see number 4, our high shelf. We could drag this and just take it down. But if you're not sure what you're looking for, this is where the headphone comes in handy. So I've just turned on 5 here. I can grab this, and now what we're going to hear is only what's being processed by this particular bell. So let's have a listen. Oh, that's the click I don't like there, right? So once you've located it, you can come to the gain, flip it around and then adjust your cue really tight or really wide. It's up to you. If we flip it back up, we can actually do that here whilst we're listening. See, I think all of that is kind of unwanted, so let's make that cue a bit bigger. And as long as you're holding the 5, yeah, I think all of that is stuff I don't want. So let's flip that gain down. And then a before and after. So the second thing I could see, there's that big 100. That's nice. I like my kicks hitting 100. You'll also notice 100 is a G, so that makes sense. But the sub here is lasting a little too long. In this case, we could come and cut it off really tight. I don't think that's going to sound good, but let's listen. That loses a lot of that low end power. So instead of using a high pass, we could change this one to a shelf, and then we can just bring it down slightly, right? So with and without. And actually I'd say there's still a lot down there we don't want, so we can turn another one on here. We set it to the steepest version, so we've got two versions here, the 12, the 24 and the 48. So I'll take the steep version. We're going to bring it all the way down to, say, somewhere here, and I can just click it and type in 30 Hertz, and maybe we want it 25 Hertz. So everything under there is going to be cut just for a bit more cleanliness. So let's do a quick before and after. Cool, that's quite nice. So this is one that I just know that I'm always going to cut. The 200 Hertz, I'm always going to use this room for the donk of my snares. Let's have a quick listen. That bit. I don't want that in my kick, so I'm going to bring that out and we'll adjust our cue up. What number was this? 2. We can adjust our cue. And then maybe we want some more air on there, so we can come across to here. We can do our shelf. And this is one that I'm sure a lot of you, if you've had any training, if you've been to college or anything, it's cut not boost is the thing that people always say, but I don't care. You can boost. You can boost. Look, it lets you boost. That means you can boost. So let's have a listen. All that air that's being added. So I'm going to do quite an aggressive boost here. And we can boost it up so we get that nice curve from where we cut. Or we can take it to just that higher thing. But I think it's quite nice to get some of that in there. So let's listen now. And off. So that's quite a nice start. It's kind of helping carve that kick drum. The next thing I do, particularly with kick drums, and you might think this is a little bit much, but I go in and look for all of these dips, and I will just recut out all of the dips to really emphasize the space. So one of them is here, our 200 that we've already cut out. I see another one here. Where's that? 1.58. So we can just click here and go 1580 and gain down, cue up. Where's this next one next to it? That's at 125. I'll do the same again, 1250, and we'll set this to a notch. So instead of using a bell, you can use a notch to get it even tighter. And then we'll set our cue right the way up. We've got some here. What's this one? 446. Turn this on. Notch 446. Cue right up. What's this one next to it? 346. 346. Notch. Cue right up. And there's this gap between these two. Where's this? 69. Let's do 69 because it's a magic number. 69, and we'll set that cue right up there. Maybe here. And I could actually probably make that cue a little wider in this case. There's a couple more here. There's that one, 748, 748, notch, cue up. There's this next dip here, 578, so we can come in, notch, 578, and whack that cue up again. So this looks like we're doing some crazy kind of cuts here, but these are only frequencies that are already low in that signal. We could take these ones too if we wanted to. I'm going to need another EQ8 for that, but let's do it. Just send it up here so we can see a bit better. So you can see now where we're getting some of this, and actually we could set the scale up 200% to kind of cut a bit more, or we could duplicate it. Let me just close these, come to this one. So you can see it's slowly giving a bit more room but keeping those same overtones. And if we delete the span, I'll just group all of these for ease of turning them on and off. That was our initial kick. And I'd say now you probably don't need all of that air, that sounds a bit much. So it's got quite a harsh transient at the beginning, and then tails off with our big subby boom. Now, for the kind of music I do, I probably wouldn't want my kick drum lasting more than a quarter note, so I could come in here and fade that out, and maybe fade that out a little more like this. And that's still got a bit of crunch and a bit of distortion to it. It's not the best kick, but using a ton of EQ8s you can really see how we've carved that sound from, and I'll get span so we can see this properly. So from this to this. So it still sounds like the same sound, it's just got more room in that frequency spectrum. So that's one of the uses for EQ, cutting these sounds, trying to create a nice kick. So I can now rename this kick G, and we can actually, new audio track, resample that in, and then take this, rename kick G, Control J, and there we go. Oh no, I want to turn warp mode off, Control J, there we go. So we can see we've got this nice kick. It's lost some of its initial big thump because of the way that we've EQ'd it, but it is what it is. So the next thing I want to look at is the mid-side mode. So I'm going to grab some nasty bass. Let's come into here. Neuro bass volume 2. Pan bass hit. I don't know what this even is, but let's have a listen. No, I want a big screecher really. Big screecher? Yeah, you look nasty. So, this is a big bass that I've processed and resampled out to get this noise. What we can do from here, we grab our EQ8. We don't necessarily want to be cutting or boosting any particular frequencies. I've already kind of made the sound to sound good. What we can do is come over to our mid-side mode, and now we have this M or S. So on our mid, we can get rid of some of this high. Let's shelf it, say around the 1K region. So if we do this, we can hear right, and then we come across to our side and we're just going to do the opposite. So where are we? We'll turn this one off and turn 7 on, and we're just going to do the opposite. So where we're carving away from the mid, we're going to add to the sides, and this should just help widen up the sound a bit. So let's have a listen. And without, and with. So then we could take this one step further, and we could get rid of, let me turn that one off, we could get rid of some of the bass in the sides. So now we've just got high up on the sides, and come back to our mid, and we don't really need to boost this too much, but we can. So let's come here and we'll boost it. Oh, that's the wrong way. This one, and boost that up. I mean, you don't really want to boost it this much, but we can. So let's get that lined up. And so quick before and after. So you can hear, I'm going to get a utility just so we can listen to monoing that whole sound now. So you can hear all of that side content, all the high frequencies have been lost. So it's something you do have to be cautious about. If you are using mid-side EQ and you're going to do drastic stuff like this, you have to make sure that your tracks, if you're making tracks to play out to a club, you have to make sure they are mono compatible. So it's far too easy with EQ8, mid-side mode. Yeah, boost all my sides, it sounds really big and wide now. When that's played on a system, you might end up losing most of your track to the fact that when they're summing to mono, depending how these systems sum to mono, there's a couple of different ways. You can hear if this was being played at a club and you're expecting it to sound like this, with all this big crispy wide, it might actually end up sounding like this, which is less than ideal, but used subtly and used in the right way, you can get some really nice sounds with mid-side EQ. So that's one quick example of how to do it. You could also kind of get a bit more experimental with it, but generally the whole point is you're going to want the mids, the middle of your two speakers, the mono signal, you're going to want that to be the lower signals, and the sides are the higher. It's just a good way to split. I always like to think of an upside down triangle. So mono at the bottom, so I've got my subwoofer right here under there, and I've got my two speakers up here. So mono, low, the middle of your speakers, and side, either side of your speakers. So the last one we have is left and right. So I'm going to let's grab another sound, because it's always nice to give you guys some fun sounds. What we got here? Saku bass. Weird, I like it. So let's grab that, and we'll grab our EQ8 and turn this off. Chuck this up here. Remembering that we got oversampling. Now I've got that turned on and saved into my default, so oversampling is always turned on. So now we can have a look at L and R mode. So what this gives us is the same as mid-side, but it's each side. So we could do some kind of funky, weird EQing. So let's just go something like this. I'll turn that one into another bell. So we've got something like this on the left. Then we're going to do the opposite on the right. So now we've got before, this is our sound, and after. So it's a way of creating some stereo spread without having to use a chorus or anything like that. And I think the left-right EQ is definitely used more as an effect for me. But if you are recording something out in the fields, you know, you're actually out recording samples, and you have a stereo microphone that you're recording stuff with, you might actually need to do this because you've got too much of one person or one thing on one side. So imagine if you had a full orchestra that you were recording with one stereo microphone. I don't know why, but that might be what you're doing. You've got all of the cellos over there and all of the violins over there. You might notice there's way too much bass on your left hand channel of your stereo channel. So in that case, you want to go to the left hand and just remove some of the bass from there. And then you might want to boost the bass on the other one just to even it up. That would help you in that scenario. But I imagine if you are recording out in the field and stuff, you're going to be trying to capture the best sound you can anyway. But the left and right is definitely going to help you with that kind of issue where you've got a split. And we could actually emulate this using a delay or using chorus and then try and fix that. And it does actually look like in this case we do have the scenario that I explained where one channel seems to be more powerful than the other. So this is actually a good case where you might want to go in there and have a real listen to the difference between these two. If we go, we can take this and have a... So that main frequency on our... Oh, I'm on mid-side now. Where am I? Left, right. So on our right channel, you can see that frequency on the left channel. Let's have a listen to the same frequency. And it seems that that is a bit louder on our left channel, so we might want to duck that a bit on that channel. Bring the Q up some. And we're just trying to rebalance, so let's insert audio track and resample, and we can have a little look at what we've actually done there with the left-right EQ. So you can see what we've done has definitely flipped the opposite of what we wanted. So we probably bring this one down a bit. We don't need it to be that much that it's boosted. Let's try this again. So now if we just look at this first one here, you can see where our right channel, was it? No, our left channel was a bit weaker than the right. Now with this left-right EQ, we have kind of fixed that and made them a little more uniform. I mean, the other way we could deal with this is just by grabbing a utility and setting it to mono. In that case, it would combine both of these to mono. So let's just move this down here, solo this, resample, and have a little listen and look. So you can now see that they are both perfectly equal, but you should also be able to hear quite a big difference between the three now. Our original, our mono summed, and our left-right EQ. And the left-right EQ isn't necessarily the right one. Sounds like it's a bit weighted too much to one side now, but you can see the difference between having a weaker left or right channel and mono summing them or trying to balance them with EQ. So there's not really any special effects to EQ. The main thing really is being able to make it bigger so you can actually see what you're doing. If you don't use another spectrum analyzer, this is quite a good one. And our three different modes. Most people probably just use it on stereo, but mid-side is great for getting that spread and getting your stereo width. And left and right is good for either using as a special effect or trying to fix a broken recording. Alright everyone, that does it for this episode of Deep Dive. As always, project files are available in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff. Ring that bell if you want to see more of our videos, and I will catch up with you guys next time. Bye!